Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you how you can make your acrylic paint look like oil using heavy gloss gel. And we're going to be using, of course, palette knife. And I've got out my acrylic paint. Nothing fancy. This is just a throwaway palette and I've just used a marker to show you what colors I've got out. And on the side here, I'm using the gloss heavy gel, which if you stick around and watch this video, you'll learn how to create texture and a lot of lively brush strokes using gel gloss medium in your acrylic paint. This is just my water spritzer so that I can keep my paint wet. Seeing as I'm not using the Masterson Stay Wet palette, I have to kind of remember to give my paint a spray. And I've got out my trusty paintbrush. This is an Artist Loft round number 4 from Michaels. And these are some Master's Touch brushes I got from Hobby Lobby because I like the short handle, because when I'm filming these videos you kind of need short handle, and they look pretty good, so we'll give them a whirl. So to begin with, I've got out my gesso board here and I've got a little bit of Pyro Red on there, and I had a little bit of white in there. So the main reason for that is I want that sort of, when I get loose, painting loose, I like having little bits of that red background come through. And also you can scratch away some of the paint using your palette knife to create super cool marks. So stick around and watch that. Okay, so to begin with, we're just going to keep this really fun and simple. So I'm just going to start off by I'll use a little burnt sienna and some of that Mars black. And by the way, if you're starting out, I'm just using these inexpensive Liquitex Basics paints to paint this. There's nothing fancy. You can get them at Michael's for like $5.99 a tube. So we're just going real easy today. So start off, I'm just gonna get a little branch going for this cute little chickadee. You can just kind of doodle. You don't, nothing is set in stone. If you don't like it later, paint over it. That's the beauty of painting in acrylic or oil. I know someone recently said they're going to start painting and they're going to paint in watercolor, and I thought, ooh, watercolor is super challenging. If you're a watercolor artist out there, I am very impressed, because you need to kind of layer everything. You can't really put the thick paint over top because it kind of ruins the whole water effect after all. But yeah, so I'm impressed with watercolor painters. So I have a friend whose channel is on YouTube if you want to watch her. She paints flowers and landscapes and everything. Her name's Stevie Denny, and she's on YouTube like me. So anyways, I'm just going to sketch this little chickadee. I'm just going to look at the main shape of the, the body and everything, and just sort of doodle that bird in there. I never really aim for hyper-realism or perfection when I paint birds. I really just enjoy the whole process so much that after you paint them for a while, they get more accurate, but because you sort of see things better. I used to paint the bird's beaks and the eyes way out of line, and now I'm so used to kind of seeing them. It's like someone who paints dogs and cats. They get really good at doing the eyes correctly. I think that's one of the most important features, is getting that, the basics of the eyes in there. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of marking this out. And remember, anything you don't get right, you can just paint over later. And I love using acrylic because it dries fast and I can layer over top different layers of paint. And then in today's video, if you're watching, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the YouTube algorithm that, you know, changes weekly almost and makes it very hard for people to sometimes find my videos. So if you can, take a minute and just hit the old subscribe button. And so I want to make sure I get those little legs in there because I think that always adds a lot of character to the painting. Okay. All right. So that's probably good enough sketch because I do better painting than sketching. It sounds funny, but once I start painting, I can almost do a better job of capturing what's going on than trying to draw it just perfect. Just kind of doodling a few more little placeholders for where I want to put some of those blossoms. Okay, now I'm going to switch to this larger brush. This is just a 1/2 inch flat, and I want to mix up something for that, you know, shadow color. So just grab a little cobalt blue and some raw sienna, and I can add a little gel medium to this. It'll help the paint also stay wet longer and be easier to blend if you use a little bit of that in the underpaint. And I'll add a little bit of that titanium white. You want to get that in there. And then you can build. So we're building from dark to light as always. It's just the easiest formula to go by. I'm gonna add more raw sienna into that mix for where it starts to get warm. On the bird's side there, you can start to see that nice rusty kind of color coming through. And then I'll block in some of that gray. So I'll use some cobalt and burnt sienna. And just a tiny dab of that medium just so it'll stay wet longer. And I'm just gonna put that in. I forgot to block in the rest of his mask. There. All right, then I'm going to grab some white, mix that in there, and a little more cobalt. Start to add some of that lighter. We're not going to white yet, we're just kind of upping the ante a little. You want to have enough mid-tone to darker values in the underpaint, because when you start adding the thicker paint, you're going to find out if you don't have that, there's really nothing to make it pop with. So you got to get that in there. Oopsies. Don't want to go that light. And I like to get the little eyelid in there because that really makes a difference. There, and get a little bit of that beak in there, and okay, so now you see we've got it all kind of blocked in, and we can go and block in some cherry blossoms. So I'll get a little bit of this. I put out some quinacridone magenta, and I'll use some raw sienna, and maybe even a bit of this blue gray, and just block in a little kind of a placeholder for the blossom. And it's sort of like creating your own little roadmap where everything's gonna go. Okay, that's good enough for that. And now we can go ahead and mix up with our palette knife and some of this gel gloss medium. We're gonna mix up a bunch of really thick paint that's gonna really create a lot of texture. And at the end of the day, if I put an oil painting next to acrylic, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in the texture. It's going to be very, very bold, and you're going to like the results. I'll add a little orange to that just to... And this just comes from, you know, just practicing different things. You know, don't get intimidated if it doesn't work out your first time. Don't give up. Painting is a long distance run. You know, you're never gonna get there overnight, and so you gotta work at it and paint and make a lot of bad paintings before you make maybe one that you think is good, especially in the beginning. It's all about getting mileage. Like anything, like any skill, you gotta just kind of give yourself a little time to get there. And you know, you'll get some wins along the way that will just keep you inspired and going. All right, so now I'm gonna get some of that lighter gel medium mix of the white. Put that on there. I have so many birds outside my window that when I paint, I literally, they're just chirping away out there. So if you've watched my oil videos, you can kind of see that it's similar. The effects, it almost looks the same with the oil. So I got to get some more of that lighter gray mix. Mix some cobalt and the gel medium and a little dab of orange. That'll kind of make a nice warm gray. And I got to remember to, don't forget to spray your paint. Put down some of that thicker Get a little light in there. And then you also want to make sure, even though black, it's flat, you want to add a little gel medium in with some of that black and you want to have the texture coming through there too. So okay, you gotta keep moving because it's acrylic, so you want to keep everything from, you know, working. I work fast so it won't dry out so much. Just gonna blend some of that in. Get a little orange. And a little white. And a little bit of yellow because it's not just, it kind of has that golden look. Now I can kind of blend it a little. And I want to get a little more of that darker paint underneath there, kind of. Mix some more of that blue-gray in. And then get a bit of that lighter gray and just sort of put in a bit of texture to show some feathers. All right, well, it's still a bit wet. I want to do some of my scratches because it will dry really quick here in the desert. It's already kind of hard to scratch off in some places, but you can see it leaves some of that red underneath comes through, and it just creates some more design kind of interest. So I'll leave it for now, and then I'm gonna go and I want to mix up the background. I'm gonna use this light blue and some titanium white and the gel medium. It's kind of like making your own little icing, your own little cake. Putting this stuff on is so fun. Okay, so it looks really messy at the moment, but that's fine. You gotta just go through that stage. And that's part of creating a loose painting, is there's gonna be some factors that are, you know, a little out of your control. So all right, so now this is where you can see the acrylic is a lot trickier to do this with than the oil, because you got to work fast, and also it has a different heaviness to it. So if I push too hard, it has a tendency to pull too much off the canvas. I'm going to switch to my brush and just put the beak back in quickly. Okay. Just gonna put in a little bit of a sparkle on the eye. And I can there we go. All right, now I'm gonna go and add some thick paint to the blossoms, and that'll get us there to a bit more, even more of a near finished state. I'm gonna try to see if this one with this round tip will work. It's hard to get the right, the right palette knife. I just kind of use what I have around my studio, and I'm busy all the time, and I get a little distracted, and I forget to go and research how to find some really good palette knives. So if you have one that you use, you really like it, please let me know in the comments, because I am just not the best shopper, I'll tell you that right now. And I've looked on Amazon, I can't seem to find anything but these bigger ones. So I'm just gonna make some petal marks. These little blossoms, you just wanna start like I did with a darker pink undertone, and then you can go and easily add these marks to make them really shine. And I leave some of the shadow in these ones that are kind of, facing down. me get a little more titanium white in there. I like them to be, you know, real pale pink. Then we can carry on this sort of abstract theme up here. Just put some marks up there. Just add a little variety. So I'm mixing up some lighter pink here and there. It's one of my favorite parts, just blobbing this stuff on. But you can see it's really giving the effect of cherry blossoms. All right, so now we want to look at it and go back, spritz our paint, don't forget that. Go in with your little brush and you can start to work on a few of the finer details. I'm going to add a little burnt sienna into that black and just flattening my brush out so I can go and add the branch in now. A little more solid. Kind of got lost there. And I'm just going along and adding a little lighter kind of brown on top. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and look at some of the edges, and also I want to get a little black and just kind of add a little bit of those details to the little feet. And I like to add a little bit of cobalt. I use cobalt and a bit of white just to get in some of those little, just a little something different in the dark there on the feet and also on the in the shadows, a few little bits of that blue. And get some of that background color, and you can just go around and anything that you want to kind of take away a little bit of some of the red, you can just, it's a lot easier than trying to sometimes go in with your palette knife. Just kind of and you could take your palette knife and get a bit of that quinacridone magenta that I've got out, mix it with some of that gel that I had there, and dab a few of those little, there's some of the little buds, you know, they're not open yet. You can put a few of those in the painting. You're in there. There. There and there. Okay. All right, I'm feeling good about this painting. And if you like it and you're enjoying these lessons, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I have lots of videos like this on my Patreon that you can learn from me. Learn how to paint loose and free in oil and acrylic this year. So join me, and the link is in the description. Anyways, thank you so much for all your support and for everything you do, all your comments. I love it all, and I try to respond to all of them. And just let me know if you try this out, and anyhow, and any other birds you want to try. All right, happy painting, everyone.